Hey everybody, this is Tom Bucks. Welcome to MST.TV. Today's video, we're going to be covering 4 decks, covering 4 different combos, and maybe find 4 different choke points, one for each of these decks. As this is a meta trend video, we're going to be looking at the trending combos that are dominating this format, a lot of which were featured at YCS Hartford, a lot of which are regional level, and some of which are even at the local level, but they are devastating. Combo number 1, ABC Therion Synchro Scythe Lock. This is a Rose Dragon variant, but this is a triple engine play. If you open with 2 engines, you're going to be fine because you still end up with Scythe Lock and an Omni Negate. But if you do triple engine, you get more or less 2 Omni Negates plus the Scythe Lock and maybe a 3rd Omni Negate without even needing to summon an ABC with the ABC loaded. And can you do this whole engine without Brave? You can, but you're going to need to load yourself with a little bit more handtrap, a little bit more P.U.N.K. I'm going to show you guys why this is so devastating. So we're going to start off with Water Enchantress. If you have a handtrap for the Enchantress, you should probably handtrap that, or you should save the handtrap so that they don't get a Griffin. That's all I can say, because you got to minimize the amount of Omni Negates available. So right's there. The problem of letting me get to right is that you're going to give me a level 4, and the level 4 is going to lead to the Dagda place regardless, and the level 4 is useful for me because it's automatically going to be giving me access to Synchro into a level 7. Starting with this play, I'm just going to immediately go for the safest route, so we're going to start with the Griffin. If you don't have any other hand traps available, or things to stop hand traps, then you probably should do this if you want to play it safe. Especially like the game 3, this is kind of what I typically like to go into. So we're going to get the Griffin Rider early, and we're just going to straight up just equip it because I want to save a little bit of time, because essentially we're just going to equip this card anyway. We need it on the field before we even get any further in the combo, because the set rotation lets us add back the other field spell that we toss back. And this is really broken. This counts basically as 2 field spells. So you keep yourselves with the Union Hanger, and you give away the Disc Coliseum. You can now add back the Disc Coliseum back to your hand, and you can just activate the Union Hanger. And we're going to go for B. If you already have B, go for C, because C has a different line combo that's really, really gross, and I don't like being on the receiving end. I received it and I actually lost that game. It's just very hard to play through. So B is going to go to the Hulk play now. So we're going to normal summon out the B, activate the effect, and this is going to equip the Union Driver. If Union Driver is in your hand, toss it into the graveyard with the Faithful Adventure, and then revive the Union Driver with the Therion King Regulus. And this is going to give us the Torque Tune Gear. Torque Tune Gear is going to activate, summon itself out, and now we get ourselves the Hulk play. So we're going to go into Hulk. This is going to give us a Rose Dragon. Chainlink 1, Chainlink 2. And this is another choke point right here. You should probably hit this Hulk as early as you can. And if you didn't allow us to search for the Griffin Rider, this is the part where you let them drop just enough so that you can nib them and wipe the board. However, because there is a follow-up with Therion King's Regulus, you're going to be dealing with a Regulus and an ABC, worst case scenario. In this case, this ad doesn't really matter, because we're just going to toss it back into the graveyard regardless. Only one of the searches need to happen, so it has to be Veiler or Imperm for this particular point. So in any case, one of the biggest ways to kind of stop this deck is to use Droll. There's just if you haven't seen it, there's just a ton of searches already. And there's just even more searches about to follow up like this one here. So definitely want to use Droll to stop this deck. So after you activate that, grab the Therion King Regulus. Regulus is going to provide us with the additional level 4 to play with. So we're going to go for the Buster Drake. Buster Drake activates twice because it's not once per turn. Let's just put it here. Let's summon it back onto the field. And this is going to give us the Shooting Riser Dragon. And the banless hit down Hulk and Shooting Riser down to 1. And this deck actually played 2 of both. So definitely got a little bit weaker, but still very powerful nonetheless. Because of this particular synchro, we're doing a triple Chainlink. Chainlink 1, we're going to go with the Shooting Riser. Chainlink 2, we're going to go with Red Rose Dragon. And Chainlink 3, we're going to go with B Buster Drake. Buster Drake is the one that I don't really care for as much, so I'm going to add A into my hand, and I'm going to throw C into the grave. So C is going to be the one I go to the grave. And the Rock Swords get summoned, that's going to activate as well, and we're going to be throwing C into the graveyard. Therefore, A needs to hit the graveyard now. So first of all, let's just add our Basil Rose Shoot into our hand. And now we can perform a quick little Link Summon with the 2 tuners. And I believe I have to throw A into the graveyard. That loads the grave. And that's for 2 purposes. One, I get to add back my field spell, because I do have a Union Hanger, so that gives me an additional card to play with. And then we can finally play the Basil Shoot. This particular line forces you to play the Basil Shoot a little bit early, so you don't get to preset your card. And then you can go into Dagda here. The problem here is that you're going to have to activate Hulk to go to Dagda. If you did not, basically, if you saved your Draco back and didn't do the bounce, or maybe you held it into your hand or did it like later on, there's a different line that happens where you get to put the Scythe out right away. And if you still want to put the Scythe out right away, then you could have gotten rid of your Regulus or something along those lines, and you can do a completely different play, but you'll get the Scythe lock earlier. And in that line, you would summon ABC. So here, we already have ABC loaded into the graveyard, so we have A, C, and B here, but we don't have space, so we're not summoning it out because of the lack of space. So Dagda, during your opponent's turn, the first thing you have to do is you have to get rid of that Hulk, or else you're going to get Scythe locked, and no matter how you play Scythe lock under 2 Omni Negates, you're not going to kill your opponent, especially with a Disc Saucer on the field. That's a very hard way to break the board, considering the equipped monster takes 3 hits. It's not the easiest board to crack. You can also use Dark Ruler No More plus an Evenly Match to wipe the entire board, leaving the token up. But even in that case, you still have to buy, like, well, that's pretty easy at that point, because every Omni Negate is already turned off, and there's like, you just have to lose everything. Except for the fact that, first of all, during the end phase, of course, I do have a field spell. And the other thing is, ABC is still loaded in the graveyard. So there's double ABC coming the following turn. So if you don't die, you have to eat 2 ABCs. And this is basically the follow-up here. So you go Dagda, put the Scythe on board. TG Wonder. Pop this. That comes out. That summons. Mandatory activation. If they try to negate it, you can, of course, create a little bit of a dodging effect here. And go Baron. And now you have Scythe locked and triple negate, and this is why they can't really play if they don't have an immediate reaction to Hulk. Number 2, Sunavalon Brave Therion. We got 2 more combos after this one. This one's a long one, so I'm going to try to gun through it as quickly as possible. Shoutouts to yugioh for featuring this combo. It was really, really cool. It is a 1-card combo that leads to basically everything that you need, and we're going to play it the 2-card engine way, because you have to showcase how you don't need all your zones to execute a plan like this. This is really, really strong. So we're going to grab the Draco pack, we're going to add to our hand, we're going to start off with a Griffin, because sometimes they just have it. So this makes it this deck a 2-card disruption kind of deck. If you want to hit them with the Nibiru, you need 2 cards, otherwise it's not possible. And you should probably hit them probably sooner than later, because later on there's just so much follow-up that can come in the graveyard, then it's just kind of pointless. And I know you guys pointed out in the previous video. So we're going to toss away the Draco back. We're going to equip the Draco back, because this deck runs multiple layered negations on its own. Griffin Rider, we're going to put you onto the field. Okay, so we have the 1 negation. So this is like a Nibiru plus negation kind of board if you want to break it. This is already 2 summon, and we're going to be down to our 3rd summon. If they get the summon out for free, there are ways for it to follow, but it's just much weaker. So Dryas, a lot of these cards are just not once per turn, so that's what we're going to focus on. So Dryas is going to activate when it's using the Loki. It's going to add the Sowing into our hand. Loki into the extra monster zone will give you the Sowing. You can activate the Sowing. This actually is 2 things. It gives you basically a triple summon almost. You go for the Sunseed Twin. And this is going to take damage, and Sunseed Twin is going to revive the Loki and the Dryas, because you have damage. You can heal back the life that you lost. Exactly, so you're never going to fall behind. In fact, you can win in time very easily, and you get to, and because of the damage, you get to summon out one of the Link monsters from your extra deck, and therefore it reloads your entire. That's why Sowing is super important. If you got a choke point, you guys have mentioned anti-spell fragrance on this card is really important, or negation of the Sunvine Zoning is also very important, so that they do not get this level of follow-up. This is 2 additional monsters, essentially a full board. So anti-spell fragrance much earlier if you went first. DD Crow might be also very important to stop the Loki. If they don't have a Loki in the graveyard, it does kind of ruin the long-term game, but if they can follow up with one in their hand that they have a normal summon because they use Unexpected Die, they might have a chance to keep on going. So it's not exactly one trick pony. This feels a little bit like Prank Kids, where you have 1-card engine, there's like a 1-point choke that kind of just ends the turn. It does feel a little bit like that. Now take the 2 Link monsters now, and you turn that into Jasmine. And before you do anything, you link away both of these, starting off with Dryas. The sequence is super important because if you don't sequence this correctly, you will not be able to add cards into your hand or get free summons for that matter. And you go into Sunvine Healer. Healer is going to be able to activate and target a Sunavalon monster, helping you heal, and therefore triggering the Jasmine. Jasmine is going to give you a card which is going to be the plant Therion if you don't already have it. And a lot of these cards are not once per turn, and that's what I'm counting on. The tribute effect is once per turn, but the searching effect is not once per turn. So we're going to use Lily. We're just going to equip the Loki, but essentially Loki is super important, all right? So crowing it away does matter. It's like a gamble whether or not they have another follow-up, but it is what it is. We're going to activate the Lily, so now we already have the Therion engine. And with the Therion engine, we have the Regulus, which we'll we'll just grab the Therion right now. But essentially, this comes out at the end. It can come out earlier if you don't already have this stuff, because immediately from here, you're just going to link into Melius using 2 plants, the Jasmine, and the Lily. So now you have the Melius activate, and we're going to summon back the Genius, which is why having this in the graveyard is super important, which is also why, like, the Painful Decision is also a really good search card because it automatically gives you an additional copy even if you crow it away, and this is an Earth, so you can't even like cycle read or these cards. So from here, all right, we're going to link away these two, the Sun Healer and the Melius, back into a Jasmine so that we can go into another Sun Healer to play with a Rose Girl. So we're going to heal again, and that's going to proc the Jasmine again, because not once per turn. And the Rose Girl is going to be added to our hand. Next, we're going to start locking our opponents out with some of the end board pieces with this Jasmine. We're going to activate the effect here. You could try to hit this off and negate it and maybe even destroy it. Because if you Gamma this, pretty much hurts a lot. You kill off so much synergy if you just Jasmine this, but they will get a follow-up with the Rose Girl. Just, you know, keep that in mind, all right? And they do have like more stuff they can summon. It's not the end of the world, but it's just kind of a funny point to hit them at, because you block out the Rose Whip, which is still good. It's still good because this is like a card that basically just absorbs so much, and because a card was sent to the graveyard, you get to summon out the Rose Girl, mainly a plant monster, and from here you can go into Melius once again. Because you go back to the Link 3. The Link 3, of course, not once per turn. We get to summon back our Loki, and from here we can finally go into our Bell Lancer. I don't know his name properly, I can't pronounce it. And from here we can activate our Sunvine Twin. This lets you revive back one of the ones in your grave. As long as you have a matching game on the field, you get to banish that one. You can summon this back onto the field. With 2 Link monsters, we're going to go into the big tree. The big tree is going to activate. This is going to give us the Skill Drain S card. It only happens once, but it's permanent. You can set this one up onto the field. And the Lancer, the reason why we put him into the graveyard is because we can banish a Melius and a Link 1 and summon it back onto the field, keeping ourselves with a bounce, and finally finish it off with our Therion Regulus. And this is the full board. If you want to crack this board, Dark Ruler No More is probably your best bet because it turns everything back on, but you still have to eat this Skill Drain behind this because these Link 4 monsters aren't going anywhere. But it's still a much easier board to break, kind of, because it's also very hard to kind of break through the battle phase here. The battle is, they get to at least chump 1 additional hit. So, evenly matched plus Dark Ruler, full wipe with the token, insta-death for sure. There's nothing they can do. If they eat that, the game's over, because there's definitely no fault. If you look at the extra deck, what do you got left? You got a bunch of like little monsters there. It's not going to help you out for sure. Combo number 3, Therion P.U.N.K. or P.U.N.K Therion. This is another 1-card combo deck if you start with the Emergency Teleport, or additional cards if you don't open as optimally. But regardless, really powerful stuff. This one does have a little bit of variance and a little bit of luck required because it involves milling cards off the top of the deck. Essentially, your Emergency Teleport 90% of the time is going to be going into the Xiamen. Xiamen's going to pay 6 and give you an additional monster into your hand. Either you can go for the Foxy Tune, or if you use Emergency Teleport, you can go even straight into Shirakusai and still get to... essentially, you can still go into the Dia Note that happens. We're just going to use Foxy Tune to Dia Note in this one because it's just easier and simpler to explain. And we're going to just use the effect, discard itself for cost, and then since it resolves, we get to send another card to the graveyard, and we get the Dia Note, giving us a non-tuner 5, which lets us immediately just Synchro into Chaos Ruler. Chaos Ruler, Chainlink 1, and you can go DNO Chainlink 2. If there's no Ash, you probably should reverse it, but in any case, we can summon back at the Foxy Tune because we want to mill more cards. This is like the mill setup right now. And milling cards is good because you want the Therion stuff in the graveyard. You want to be able to search out some cards. Like, oh, that was really good. Essentially, we were just looking for the field spell or just more Therion cards. We're going to add the Veiler into our hand, and we can even just add back the Therion cards right now. So we're going to go add the Saucer back into our hand. And yeah, we'll put that into our hand. And now we're going to overlay these two into Vampire Zombie. Or the Zombie Vampire. We're going to activate it, get a mill. Now what we're looking for is a tuner. If you get the tuner, or level 8, either or, it's all good. If you get into a tuner, let's grab a tuner. So we can go into Hulk. That's essentially what we're doing that for. We're going to activate the Saucer. Saucer, we're going to try to get additional cards because we want to load ourselves with as many disruptions as possible. This is a deck that's not as predictable in terms of what happens when it comes to the end board because there's a lot of luck involved, but you definitely mitigate the luck and just skew it in your favor. We're going to activate the Lily, go for the Regulus, so we have an Omni Negate. Even if it is a temporary one, that's still fine. Now we can go into our Hulk. And Hulk is going to grab, for my case here, I'm going to choose to go to a level 1. That's just my preference because I like having multiple Omni Negates throughout the entire game. And finally, now I can activate my Chaos Ruler. Get rid of my DD Crow. Summon this back onto the field. I'm going to activate the Lily. I can get rid of the Saucer. I mean, I want to keep the Regulus because I need it for the draw. So I'll just get rid of the Saucer for now. And we're just going to get the Therion Charge. Therion Charge, we have to send the Regulus into retirement, and I guess we got the same card again. Well, I guess we added Regulus into our hand. Now we can activate Regulus. Regulus is going to equip the Leaper. So what I kind of want to elaborate on in this particular hand, how we finished here, is that we do have a ton of negation variants. So the first one is that because I went for the level 1, I can go here. If I had additional level 8 monsters, then I could even give myself an additional negate like, say, a Hope Harbinger. But even here, once I get the bounce off of the Leaper, I'm going to tag this one into Jet Synchron. Not Jet Synchron, the Formula Synchron. Formula Synchron will probably synchro away with a Lily. That's an 8 as well, which will give me a Baron, so that's going to be basically triple Omni Negate and a bounce. Those 4 disruptions, pretty solid stuff, and you have additional hand traps that go with it too. So that's why this deck is very scary as well. In terms of where you want to disrupt them, well, since it is so monster-centric, a single, just a droplet, a well-timed droplet will crush the entire board. Again, this is monster-centric stuff. Another thing to stop them, if you want to stop them, this is all different typing. So if you have Rivalry of Warlords, things do get a little bit more difficult unless you're sticking with like mainly psychics. But even like the punk stuff isn't psychic. The punk stuff is a big variance. We have a Beast, we have Warrior, we have a Psychic. It just so happens as Yaman is a Psychic, and it seems like that's what Konami wants to promote, is like, you know, easy Psychic access. So Rivalry of Warlords, those are like really strong floodgates against especially decks like this where you're not just focused on one particular typing or attribute. The other things that you can probably do to stop this deck, it's just some choke point near the Yaman early access part, because the deck doesn't exactly search. It summons a lot from deck, so ashing the correct card is quite important. I think Foxy Tune, depending on if they use E-Tally or not, Foxy Tune is probably one of the targets you can probably just hit with an ash and call it a day. Again, it becomes dependent on whether or not there is a Regulus on board. So a double hand trap definitely is one of the better fields, or you have mass board wipe with negation. Then you can clear out everything here. Finally, number 4, deck / combo, we have P.U.N.K Brave Synchro. Where is the choke point in this? Shoutouts to Hani Jawari, and congratulations on your top as well. I watched the Hartford. So you mentioned in your video profile with Pack that, hey, Emergency Teleport and Sangan are some of the most broken 2 card openings you can get, and both of them are at 3, so they're pretty common. We're going to explore that line then. This is based off of what I know. Of course, if there's any difference, of course, please leave it down in the comment section. We're going to start off with the Emergency Teleport and just go into the ZM. And if someone plays Emergency Teleport, do you Ash it? It's a gamble, because if they just kind of already have it, it doesn't really matter. And just playing Emergency Teleport does not tell you what deck they're playing just yet, because there is the Therion build as well. So we're going to normal summon out the Sangan. This is the biggest teleport. This is the Synchro variant. And we're going to activate the ZM to search out a Foxy Tune into our hand. And now we're going to go into Cherry Beanie. And the annoying part about the Brave engine is you kind of have to negate the Brave engine with your Ash, otherwise you're just, well, playing with a negate already on board. So we're going to add to our hand Arborea, which is the Crusadia one, because Sangan prevents you to activate the cards or effects with anything with that name that you added. However, the summoning condition of Arborea does not activate. It's just one of the summons that just jumps out of hand, so that's completely bypassed. And to bypass even more stuff, Cherubina gets to dump the Water Enchantress into the graveyard, immediately giving us the Brave engine, making it pretty annoying for opponent to hit us with like stuff like Effect Veiler or basically any hand trap. Even Ash. Ash basically gets burned right here. And we set up the Fateful Adventure, Fusion Destiny, not Fusion Destiny, Journey, our Fateful Adventure. And from here, we can just special summon out the Arborea. This is going to trigger our Fateful Adventure. We're going to add the Draco back into our hand. And this is going to set up Griffin for us, so we get our Omni Negate pretty early on in the game. And we can just put away our Draco back. Draco back activates. Equip. Yeah, let's just chain this together. Griffin Rider. So we're essentially going to try to set up Scythe Lock here. With Foxy Tune, we could probably push it a little bit, but I do want to keep my tuners available here, so I don't want to waste anything. So we're going to go straight into Hulk before I run out of that opportunity. Hulk is going to activate. We're going to summon out the Rose Dragon package from here, because Rose Dragon provides us so many bodies. And we do have a Punk monster that we can summon here, which is going to be Dianote. This provides us with 8, which is going to help us go into Chaos Ruler. Chainlink 1. This is a 3-part chain, I believe. Chainlink 2. We can go Dianote, Chainlink 3, Rose Dragon. We can go for Foxy Tune in this case, because we can go into Vampire Zombie to just help us extend even further. And Rose Dragon. Rose Dragon summon out Rox Rose. Then Dianote's gonna summon out, of course, our Foxy Tune. Chaos Rose is gonna mill a ton of cards. We just want to add something, whatever that's useful. That seems like it's gonna be that Veiler. Rox Rose is going to activate. Add a Basil Rose Shoot. You can Synchro even further if you wanted. You can go Psychic and Punisher here, but I think that's a bit of a waste. We're going to overlay into Vampire Zombie. We're going to activate Vampire Zombie, or Zombie Vampire, detach the Chaos Ruler. And we hit a Veiler. So since we hit a tuner, we can go grab the tuner, but yeah, let's grab the tuner here. We're gonna summon a Hot Red Dragon Arfine Abyss, and from here we have Basil Rose Shoot. We can just go into Dagda. Grab these two, go into Dagda. We can activate Chaos Ruler. Vampire Zombie, one of the Foxy Tunes. Summon it back onto the field. Go into Hot Red Dragon Arfine Abyss. You know, life's good. Life's really good. If there's something you can bounce, you can bounce it now. But this is like triple Omni Negate with a Scythe Lock. You can force the Scythe out right away if you want to. But any additional cards in your hand, there's 2 more cards. This is pretty ridiculous already, because this is a lot of stuff that you can negate with. If there's like, I would probably set the Basil Rose Shoot personally. That's just me. By setting the Basil Rose Shoot, it gives me a chance to maybe bypass Dark Ruler no more, because if they try to Dark Ruler this board, you can chain Basil Rose Shoot and then just chain Hot Red Dragon to Archfiend Abyss to negate the Dark Ruler, and that puts them in an awkward spot. So then you get another Griffin Rider negate, and then if you get rid of the Griffin Rider, then you can use Hulk to do the pop. You can still do the entire place. That's pretty ridiculous too. I'm not sure if this is the actual final end board, because one more thing I wanted to throw into the graveyard is the Fairy Tale Snow, which I didn't achieve here. But this deck is so flexible that it is super easy. I mean, I could have forced the Fairy Tale Snow into the graveyard by activating Basil Rose Shoot, summoning out the level 3 tuner. Just sync this off, put it in the graveyard. I have more access to even more stuff like that. So yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. I can't really pinpoint the choke point for this particular combo. I think just Droll and Nib could probably do the trick. If you Droll them early, or Hand Trap plus Nib, it can hit them at the right point where you have to waste the Griffin. And even on this board, if you Droll a Nib on this board, or like you negate a Nib, you still wipe everything, and Scythe probably won't even do anything, and it's a full board wipe. If you want to follow up and break a board like this, Dark Ruler no more is probably your best bet. That's why you might want to save the Basil Rose Shoot when you set on the Hot Red Dragon Archfiend Abyss, because that lets you bypass some of these problems. I think the first thing you have to stop, even with the ABC Therion build, is that you probably have to stop the Hulk, because once Hulk goes through, if a Scythe Lock is something that you lose to, then you probably need to stop this first before anything else, and you need something that's non-responsive, and that's why it's super, super important that you get that through. So anyway, that's my rundown for this particular combo. If you guys have other ways to break the board, leave it down in the comment section. Of course, Dark Ruler, evenly matched, kind of kills like 90% of boards these days, but just throwing that out there. Alright, and that's all I got for this video, guys. If you guys enjoyed this video, learned a thing or two, found some weak points while the combos were being executed, leave it down in the comments section. I would appreciate that. And also, on top of that, don't forget to check out MST.TV. I would appreciate you guys for, help supporting this channel. Pick up some awesome sleeves, pick up some awesome mats, pick up some box dividers, help sort your collection. Everything really works out. Or even if you want to protect your sleeves, there's over sleeves available at MST.TV. Until next time, I'm still working on the ultimate counter guide. It's taking me some time. I have to learn all these combo lines and trying to figure out the side decks, and not just side decks, but the counterplay to a lot of these big decks right now. There's a lot of combo decks right now. Of course, Mystic Mine is still a problem. And well, that's all I got for this one. So I guess I'll see you guys in the next one, as long as you guys subscribe to MST.TV.